Welcome to the See It Now podcast, a 15-minute review of a movie near you. My name is Michael Domenico.
And I'm Don Gibson.
Don, we have a great pod today. What are we reviewing?
We are reviewing the hype movie of the season so far, Civil War by Alex Garland, all about America going to pieces.
I am so hyped for our review of Civil War. Let's cue the Grateful Dead. As many of you know, this is a 15-minute podcast about a movie that is screening in New York City. Today's pod's going to run as such. We are going to have a summary of the movie. We're going to talk about what we liked. We're going to talk about what we disliked. We're going to review the movie. Then we're going to do our top 3 war movies, being that Civil War is a war movie. And then we're going to review our lunch or dinner we had the night of the movie. Don, what is Civil War all about?
Well, I guess the name is pretty self-descriptive. It is the Civil War that is happening sometime in the mid-near future in America, where somehow Texas and California have gotten together to create the Western forces, and now they're attacking Washington to retake the government. And we have 2 journalists that decide to go in and interview the president before all of that terrible stuff happens.
Don, this is a fantastic movie to see in the theater, especially considering what we have to choose from these days. The sound in particular really shook me. Overall, a extremely fun theatrical experience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you know, I don't often get hyped about movies, and when I heard Garland did this film, and, you know, he's done a couple of films I really like Ex Machina and 28 Days Later. And so I was like, oh, I love that vibe he has and that energy. So I was like, oh, Civil War, that's certainly something we're talking about these days, all the unrest that's going on. I was pretty excited. I took me a while to warm up to the film, though, I have to admit, starting in New York. And I just was like, why are we taking so long to get there? But as you said, the closer we got, we saw, like, at night, we'd see, you know, lots of great soundscape stuff of battles happening at night and the threat happening. And it definitely builds really well. So I totally agree. This is a film to see in the theater.
My favorite moment for sure was Jesse Plemons. He was an amazing bad guy, and I won't spoil the moment that he performs in, but he's just so great. And I would say that Kirsten Dunst does play the grizzled journalist pretty effectively. I thought she was stoic in a way that actually I thought was believable.
I agree with Jesse Plemons. He's a pretty good, guy that doesn't care anymore. He's willing to kill anybody that shows up. So I thought his character was well done. I also like the portrayal of the president. The main characters that we follow, that's my problem with the film. I was really indifferent to all of them. Kirsten Dunst, haunted past of, all the terrible things she's seen as a war journalist. I was like, well, then get a new job. Like, if you can't do this, then leave. And maybe that's heartless of me, but the film is about, like, going into the depths of whatever we're going to see. And the structure of the characters, it seems, I think it seems almost like a Star Trek episode to me, where that, Captain Kirk and, Leonard Nimoy are going to the planet, and the other 3 people with them, they're not going to make it. They'll be killed off somehow. And, I thought the characters and the acting was just kind of bland, honestly, except for some small actors that we see along the way.
Before we get into completely ripping this MF apart.
Oh, come on, I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Yeah. The use of sound was incredible. I mean, the sound design was amazing. The way, like, they kind of zeroed out the sound in certain moments to create kind of moments of impact, as well as the sort of high energy, high intensity kind of gun violence was great. And I thought Wagner Moura, when he was in those moments of grief when his friend died, he was pretty damn good. I also have to compliment both Wagner for probably losing about 20 to 30 pounds since Narcos. Great job with the weight loss. Jesse Plemons seems like he lost about 20 pounds since Killers of the Flower Moon. And I would say Kirsten Dunst probably gained about a 15 to 20 to play an older, grizzled journalist. Incredible weight changes by these
Are you,
actors.
are you body shaming, Mike? Is that what you're
I'm
doing?
not body shaming. I'm actually I'm being complimentary. This was like
Yeah.
in the realm of like kind of like a C minus Raging Bull. Don, Civil War has some problems. Could you just kind of illuminate some of those? I know you're kind of ready to go on that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Civil War, the best stuff is the ending, the character construction, the narrative. I mean, there's so many examples. There's so it's a story of a grizzled photojournalist, and she's going to go get the story of get the president. No one's interviewed him for whatever, a year or something, and a young photojournalist joins her, and she's like, "Don't come, you're gonna destroy your life." And everybody keeps saying, "Oh, she's a younger version of you," and that's a pretty clear narrative issue through the entire film. It just sticks with the side concept of the young version, older version, and you kind of know what's going to happen in the end because of that. There's a scene where she's charging her battery, or she's developing film, old school, and they say, "Yo, it's going to take you a while to do it." She says, "Oh, it gives me time to ask you about your life," and then they do this whole like expository. Here's her background, and I'm like, "Who wrote this? Like, this is like first draft. Like, take this out." Surely you can give her background without saying, "Tell me about your life." But this is not atypical. This happens a lot in the film about giving background to stories and then about characters, and then we sort of follow them along. The narrative structure, the development of characters, the narrative structure reminds me very much of a thinly veiled Apocalypse Now, going from outside, and then we slowly get into the insanity. We go through different layers, and then we're getting closer and closer to the darkness that's creating all this havoc and terror. So I was not engaged with the narrative. I just wanted to get to Washington and see what happened.
100%. I have to agree. I hate to say it. I don't really like you that much sometimes, but this time I do. The film was predictable. Like, you knew right away at the beginning, like, we're going to the White House. Alex Garland is an influential filmmaker who makes wonderful films, generally, and I like them, and I think he's talented. I think he has a voice. He has influence. Alex Garland should be talking about politics, I think, a little bit more. He does not talk about anything political in this film. We're in such a polarizing time in America politically that you'd guess he would engage that a little bit.
Yeah, the thing about Garland, I think he's really good at dystopian, dark, messed up stuff. I mean, it's not a political movie. It's just like, we're messed up. Doesn't matter what side you're on. We're just on a collision course with wrecking everything we've created, and it's not going to stop unless we change. And there's no real path for us to change.
I mean, I guess as a journalist, you're supposed to be objective and just kind of take photographs of like what's happening versus like kind of having any kind of political bent. And personally, what I think the reason why the choice was made to not have any political thing was that it was for the purpose of making money. Like, someone who's a MAGA guy is going to want to watch this just as much as me. And I think
which might be a good thing.
Maybe it is, but it feels a little bit of a sellout to me. Like, he could have engaged. I mean, I thought it would have been interesting if it was like MAGA was winning or MAGA was losing or whatever it was. One other thing that I was a little kind of thrown off by, and you brought it up at the beginning of the pod, Texas and California uniting, that's a load of shit. I would say that this feels like I like my UK friends, what up? It feels like a British guy making a film about the States a little bit. I mean, it could have been like a little more regionally kind of lush. So like it would be like guys from Appalachia or guys from Virginia or guys from Massachusetts, some more accent work or something like that. It could have been a little more, which I think would have added to the humor, which there was very little. America's goofy. The January 6th moment was the goofiest insurrection of all time, in the hoodies, the whole look, like my basic look. And I think you could have engaged that and had a little some laughs.
I love the fact you're calling it goofy. I've never heard the insurrection January 6th called goofy, and I kudos to you for that.
I think it was extremely goofy. It was like these guys in hoodies. They're wearing they're like in their like post-pandemic sweatpants. Yeah. They've got their like Carhartt hunting hat on, and they got the gun out of the garage, and they're gonna go.
One of the poster boys for it. One of the poster boys for it had amazing war paint on his face and an antelope head. So, there is that. I do want to just jump.
Goofy, Don.
It is.
Goofy.
There's goofiness.
Don, we have to review this movie. Don, what is your 1 and what is your 10?
Well, my 1, I'll go back to Maverick Top Gun is just a train wreck of a film, and it's pure propaganda, and I walked out of it. And my best film would be Aguirre Wrath of God, which does go into the heart of darkness beautifully.
What a nerd. I'll say my 1. What was my 1? I had a good 1 for a while. My 10 is There Will Be Blood. And my 1 is the Attack of the Clones. Yeah. Star Wars, the second Star Wars. That's my 1. God, that ripped my heart out. That was so stupid. Don, out of 10, what do you give this baby?
Something I've told in life is never have high expectations because you'll be disappointed. I forgot that. So I had high expectations. I was pretty hyped. And so I'm going to give this thing a 6. There was so much potential on this, so much that could have happened. And the only part I really enjoyed was the taking of the White House, because that was just pure chaos. And I was like, yeah, let's go in there. So that I was only really engaged for the ending, honestly.
I'm going to give it a little bit of a higher grade. I'm going to give it a 7. The reason why I'm going to give it a 7 is that as far as a movie to go see in the movie theater, this is it. This is a good one. I mean, as far as having a movie that's going to change your life, this is not it.
In terms of seeing a movie at a theater, I'm pretty hyped. In a couple of weeks, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is coming out, and I'm going to go see that in the theater.
Are you going to dress up like an ape?
I already am, Mike.
Well, I'm actually just going to go without clothes, so that's just going to be my...
That's it.
So, Don, we like to do a best out of 3 war movies. Do you have your top 3 war movies, and let's hear it.
You know, it's a genre I find fascinating because it's so predictable in so many ways, but you can do so much with it because, boy, does humanity get exposed in this situation. Das Boot, from like 40 years ago, the story of a German submarine. Talk about a soundscape. This thing is so great. You listen to pings and you're not sure when you're going to blow up. So I love that one. Thin Red Line, Terrence Malick's masterpiece about World War II, taking the Guadalcanal. And it's once again questioning the purpose of war. My number 1 is Deer Hunter.
And I actually added a couple documentaries in there. I would say Restrepo, the 2010 documentary on Afghanistan, Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. Very good movie to rewatch. And my last one I would have to say is 20 Days of Mariupol. It's a new documentary that's on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
That is a recent documentary on the Ukraine war. Amazing journalism there.
And you only want to see it once because it's just so exhausting.
It's just too much. Every podcast, we review our lunch or dinner that we had the day of the movie. Don, I know you were up at some snooty private school in Connecticut or wherever the hell you are.
Okay, slow down. I'm trapped up here, Mike.
So what did you have up there, buddy?
I went to the Jacob Burns Film Center, which is a wonderful theater, and I hadn't been there in a couple of weeks, so I saw the film, and then I went and had lunch dinners like 5 o'clock, and I had fish tacos, which was a lovely mango hot sauce at Pub Street Grill, which is right beside the train station. It was great.
That's amazing, Don. I'm so glad that worked out for you.
Okay, a little more genuine, Mike. Work on that.
I went to BAM for the screening of Civil War, and there is a empanada truck right outside of BAM called Caesar's. The beef and cheese, the chicken and cheese are an absolute delight. I highly recommend hitting Caesar's empanada truck right outside of BAM, right outside the Apple Store. Everyone, it is a spectacular little snack. $3.50 without cheese, $4 with cheese. I usually splurge and get a $4 beef and cheese or $4 chicken and cheese. I sometimes get both. I go $8.
And soon they'll be free if you just keep talking about it.
I'm hoping so. And Civil War is going to be screening at the Nighthawk Cinema in Prospect Park, Cobble Hill Cinemas, Williamsburg Cinema, Nighthawk Cinema, iPic Theaters, Regal Essex Crossing, Stewart
and
Cinema,
it's up here at Jacob's Burn.
Jacob Bird Theater up in the boonies. Check it out. It's literally everywhere. It's in New York City. It's out near wherever Don lives. Please go to a movie.
Also, in 2 weeks, go to see the Kingdom of Planet of the Apes because that's what we're doing next.
This is the See It Now podcast, a 15-minute review of a movie near you. My name is Michael Domenico.
And I'm Don Gibson.
And we just reviewed Civil War. Even if we didn't like it, we think you should go to it.
I liked it.
Let's cue the Grateful Dead.
Saint Stephen with a rose, in and out of the garden he goes.